I don't think they will have too much influence. I think they will have enough influence to dictate or help direct the result of the election. It's very, very important for them because the result of the election will mean either the status quo remains or improvements come about, particularly in our regional relationships. I'm talking about those who are now in Australia. There is the latest trend or the latest aspect of Australia-Fiji relationship is the influx of seasonal workers into Australia. So it's very important for us to make sure we have a good relationship with Australia and New Zealand, who are recipients of these workers who come from Fiji. So it's very important for us to tell them the importance of their role as voters in determining the future direction of the progress of our triangular relationship, Fiji, Australia and New Zealand.
When people hear Sitiveni Rabuka, they think of the 1987 coups that you led. Talk to me about how those events and how being labelled as a former coup leader affects the trust that Fijians have in you today, especially then when they go to the polls.
I think it's been long enough, since 1987, for that to play a very, very minor role in the determination of the results of this election. Everybody had a past, and but everybody has a right to work towards a better future. And I would like to be part of the workforce that creates that better future for Fiji and the region.
And obviously the election battle is setting up between you and former coup leader Frank Bainimarama. Are you confident that whatever happens, if Fiji First is to lose, that they would concede power and there would be a peaceful transition to a new government?
I'm not confident that it will be easy for them. Well, they will have to concede defeat. It will be difficult for them, but then that's the way the world is. And I'm sure that all the machinery of government will continue and continue to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law.
Do you think the days of military coups are behind Fiji now? I
believe so. I believe we have this generation of military leaders in Fiji has been there short enough to forget the evils of '87 and long enough to know that there is a brighter future for Fiji without military intervention. It would be incongruous for us to be sending peacekeepers when we cannot keep the peace at home.
Let's talk about home, because obviously Fiji's tourism-dependent economy took a real hit during the pandemic. Employment and poverty are real issues. If you were to become PM, how would you seek to change that?
You mentioned tourism. Tourism is a gem, is a jewel, as far as Fiji is concerned. But it's something that is very, very fragile. It depends so much on the climate, and the climate is changing. It will depend so much on the world economy, things that are not determined by Fiji itself. They're dictated to us by world prices and events in the world like wars and so on, and famines in other parts of the world, and bushfires, even things like that. They affect the production of the things we import and pushes the prices up. So it's a very fragile thing to rely on. But the economy is in very bad shape that we need a very, very strong and good national morale for all of us to hold hands and push forward, improve our productivity in other areas. Maintain tourism, yes. Maintain the tourism infrastructure, because tourists will come back after the cyclone. They will come back after the prices, but we should not put all our eggs into one basket and just widen our economic base.
Speaking of influences in the region, we of course have to talk about China. Where do you stand when it comes to China making security deals with Pacific countries?
Well, the first time I heard that, I said, well, who is to blame? Who created the vacuum? Was it Australia and New Zealand and the rest of the world not looking after Solomon, particularly in the first instance of visible cooperation in security arrangements? Countries have to survive. They have to live. And when you do not have that helping hand to give you the confidence of the future, for the future, you'll look elsewhere.
I know that obviously from Australia's perspective, the idea of China setting up a military base in the Pacific is something that they're not keen on, let's be honest. So if you were to become Prime Minister and China said we wanted to do that, is that something that you would even consider?
Well, what is best for Fiji? For Fiji to set up a military base in Fiji would not add any new advantage. We have very good relationships with Australia, New Zealand, the United States in our military cooperation, and there is really no need to look for new cooperations.
And finally, Mr Rabuka, last time you ran at an election was 2018. You were with, of course, the SEDELPA party running against Frank Bainimarama. Of course, now you're with the People's Alliance, and one of the things that you've been saying is that people in Fiji want change. How confident are you going into the election and that people do indeed want change and that you are the man to bring them that change?
Well, I'm not the man to bring them the change. They bring up the change. They bring out the change. I'm the one to tell them, you need the change. This is why we need the change. This is what's happening. This is how what we can do better. So we need the change. Let's go do it. It's up to them.
Sitiveni Rabuka, Vinaka Vakalevu.
Vinaka.